Well, in the one video I showed you this particular Swiss rifle. This is a 1896/1911 conversion, and when I took it out to the range for the first time, I had problems with it, light strikes and so forth. Okay, we're going to address the problem. We're going to hopefully solve the problem. I won't be able to prove that out for a while, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to fix this gun. The thing, when I put that video out, it was just kind of some scenes and a statement I made. I got a lot of different people ask questions and made suggestions about what was wrong with this whole thing. And in this video, I would like to explain you, I believe the problem people have is, okay, say you buy this old gun. This gun was manufactured in 1900, so basically it's a 122-year-old gun. And it's a used gun. I didn't buy it new 122 years ago, okay? This gun's been around a very long time, okay? So sometimes you run into problems, all right? So we take it out, we have a problem. The first thing you should learn to do is troubleshoot. In other words, you have a problem with the gun, don't go to YouTube and look for a video. Troubleshoot the problem. Okay, now I had several suggestions, comments. I'm going to go over these, and if anything in this video, listen and learn what I'm trying to teach you, the basic steps of troubleshooting. And it can apply to any gun, not just this model and type of gun, but any gun, okay? That's what I'm trying to inform you, try to do something useful here. Now, number one thing, and I'm going to say this again, a lot of people will tell me, I have trouble with this rifle and I can't find a video. Well, finding a video and maybe somebody explains the exact problem you're having, you have to develop your own mental skills on trying to figure out what is wrong for yourself. Don't send me an email in the middle of the night, oh, I got this problem, blah, 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 blah. You should be able to assess the situation to the best of your abilities and come up. Some of it's pretty basic, common sense stuff. First thing I strongly suggest, again, don't look for a video. Buy this damn book, okay? This book is worth 3 times more than what you pay for because it has examples and step-by-step instructions on how to disassemble the firearms, okay? I did a review on this book. I've mentioned this book several times. I strongly suggest if you like military firearms, this is imperative. Plus, you can just sit alongside it. I know a lot of people don't like reading and all this other stuff, but there we go. All right, so let's start with the troubleshooting. Okay, we take this particular gun out for the first time and fire it. All right, clear the weapon. All right, so outwardly the gun's complete, looks fine, functions fine. Okay. Doesn't look like nothing's wrong. It doesn't get light strikes or almost no strike at all. Okay? So, what does that tell you? You go, the gun looks to function, you pull the trigger, it looks like you're hardly getting a strike or no strike at all. Okay. It appears then that the firing pin is broken or the tip's ground off or something. So you got to think. All right, what's the problem? Firing pin. All right. So, and then I'll address a quick problem. Now, a friend of mine told me that if this gun was out of battery, I'm going to try to get it out of battery. This is like out of battery without a closable. The gun doesn't function. Let me see how close I am. That was partially out of battery, and when you pull the trigger, it drives this gun forward, so that's not a good thing. But I could tell the gun was not out of battery. And what do they mean by that? How would you tell on this? Okay, look here. This is up tight. Okay, this back part of the bolt. You see how when I pull this back, that gap opens? This gun's kind of tricky, because it goes down in there. That would be pretty obvious an exaggeration about a battery, but as you see, as you push this forward, still out of battery, you'll hit a spot where it clicks. And now watch that when I pull the trigger. The bolt closes all the way as the... So I don't know. But that was one suggestion. Gun was out of battery. That was not the case. The gun was operating, functioning, okay, just light strike. So, you got a light strike, or you're not hitting your primer. So, that must tell you that there's a problem with the firing pin. The firing pin, number one cause would be the firing pin is broken. So this isn't too terrible. I removed the bolt. Unfortunately, at my club, I have benches and that, so I can go get a chair, sit down on the bench, and put some cloth or something down, and I can disassemble this and take a look. So, what we'll do now is we'll disassemble this and examine what the hell's going on. Alright, so once again, slowly. I knew it wasn't out of battery, but I had to answer that for my friend. So when I tried to shoot this, the cartridge wouldn't go off, and when I looked at it, it looked like an extremely light strike. So I said, okay, firing pin problem. Alright, so out in the field, I got a hold of the gun and disassembled the bolt. I'm going to disassemble the bolt and then show you what I ended up with. Alright, so I take the bolt apart and I look, and lo and behold, the firing pin is intact, not broken. Alright, so we're going to lower the spring pressure. Okay, and we look, spring is there, everything else. Well, here's the problem, is you see that tip almost came off. This spring, this is the wrong spring on there. Because also when I looked down, I figured, okay, the spring's on there, and I'm looking down through here, I can see, I thought maybe there was debris or an obstruction, because what would happen is the gun would go off after several strikes. Okay, so I thought maybe something was loose. Nothing loose, no debris, no obstructions, no damage to anything. But then when you look at this, the firing pin is intact, everything looks good. Now when I took the other guns apart, the tension of this spring is pretty tough, okay? And you can see here where I can easily get this off, alright, with just one hand. That told me right there, because when I took the other bolt apart, that this is not the correct spring in there. It might be close, but it's not right. So, that is where I diagnosed the trouble was the spring is wrong. So let's go get a replacement spring. Alright, fortunately, Wolf Springs, and you can order these online, makes a mainspring for the 1911. And they are, doesn't give the amount. I forget what these cost, it's not listed here. Alright, but you can get it from Wolf, and they have two types. The 1911, we had a 23 pound and a 21 pound spring. So what we'll do is we'll take the light one and see. This is the 21 pound spring here. And we will take it out of its package and take a look. Okay, right there. side by side. First of all, the spring is longer, okay? This is close, what was in there, but it's not the same thing. And how you measure a spring, you go by the diameter of the spring itself, which this one is 466 thousandths, and this one is way wider, it's 490 thousandths. So, as I thought, the shorter, larger diameter spring, A, it's weak, plus it's bigger. It's dragging on the inside. In other words, the diameter of the spring itself is causing a resistance. Okay, this is the wrong spring. Plain and simple. And that's what I thought it was. That's why I would do it intermittently, is when it did get around there, it would strike and work. And that's why I was turning the safety, as I was trying to move the spring inside the bolt. So that is the answer to our problem. Okay, plus as you see, this is longer. This is not that easy to compress. Okay, this is much like the normal spring. And for me, see, I have to pull this spring down up against my chest and try to slip this piece on there like that. A little bit difficult for me. But you notice now, this spring has tension, not like the other one. It's not loose and wobbly, and also the diameter is smaller. And when you compress it, that's going to expand. That's why that opposite spring was the wrong spring. And so now I will get the bolt assembled. We have our correct spring in there. Alright, so what's the moral of this story? When I took this gun out compared to the other 3 or 4 that I have, okay, I never disassembled it, or I did I disassemble a bolt on this? Maybe, maybe not. No, it was a 1911, not the 9611. They look the same. I didn't disassemble this bolt. But when I took it out to shoot it with the light strikes, I did disassemble it in the field, and I noticed the firing pin wasn't broken. Then when I put it back in, I would fire repeatedly, and eventually a cartridge would go off. So that's telling me that there's about enough spring pressure, and sometimes it did go off cycling at once. But the spring looked funny to me. And after we measured it, you know, the diameter and the length, that's the wrong spring. Now, a person asked me, how did the wrong spring get in there? How did that happen? Okay, and now, not to be insulting anybody or anything. The gun was made 121 years ago, okay? It was in service. It has a P on it, so somebody privately bought it and owned that weapon, and then probably after time it was sold, ended up being gathered up by people buying old guns in Switzerland and bringing it into the United States as surplus, and it was sold on the surplus market. Now, in that time, I've found a ton of surplus guns that people have started to tinker with, disassemble, or whatever. Maybe the person had trouble. Or another thing on a gun like this, to lessen the trigger pull pressure, you would lighten the spring, is probably the only way to do it. A weaker spring would equal lighter trigger pull. Somebody could have put it in there because of that. Somebody could have put it in there because they disassembled the bolt, okay, and lost the parts. Take it apart one weekend, leave it there for a number of time, you know, months, years, then go back, hey, where's the spring? I got to find something close. So they put something close in there, okay? That is obviously the spring that was in there is not the spring that belongs in there. It was the wrong length, wrong diameter. Close, but not exact. Henceforth, I believe that's what caused the problem. How the wrong spring got in there, who knows? I've seen a lot of these surplus guns, good guns, get damaged and get screwed up, and and everything else. And that's something you just have to be aware of. And that's how I figured out. I figured it out when I brought the gun home, took it apart again, and sat there and looked at it when I was cleaning it. I took the bolt apart, and I realized when I disassembled the other bolts that spring pressure should be higher. That's how I came to the conclusion it's probably the wrong spring. Now I could have pulled a spring out of one of the other guns and compared it, but the thing is, it's best to get a replacement spring and take it from there. So now we add the replacement spring in there. I believe the gun will function 100%. Okay, so now I believe we've solved our problem with this rifle. I can't tell if we changed the trigger pull or not, but it does have a bit more of a sound snap. Now, what this video was is to show you that I fixed the one problem, okay? And to explain to you how to troubleshoot the problem. It took me a bit. I got home, sat down, was calm, took it apart, looked at it, remembered, like I said, I could have went and got one out of the other guns and side by side and seen that, but I didn't. I knew the spring was the problem, okay? And with any firearm, especially with semi-automatic pistols, if you get older guns or guns that you have no idea where they came from, like my Stars, Wolf makes the springs, the recoil springs. It goes into the Stars and the Astras. I strongly suggest if you get one of these older guns from the 40s, 50s, even the 20s, 30s, I have some model, replace the recoil spring, okay? And people have come back and said, as long as there's a spring in there, it'll work or something. And that may not be true. It's like this rifle here. Somebody could have had this, cocked this gun, and left it compressed like that, and put it away for 10, 20 years. The gun will malfunction. You try to go out and shoot it, the gun, if that spring was compressed like that for a long period of time, that gun will malfunction. Okay, it'll do weird things. It'll shoot sometimes and not enough. That's where you have to develop your own system of troubleshooting. Pretty simple problem, okay? After I got home and thought about it, I come right to the solution, and now this thing we'll take it out maybe. The weather's going to be bad. It's going to be super cold, so I ain't going to the range for a few weeks, but I will get out in time, and we'll try this out again and make sure we took care of the problem. Now, I hope you enjoyed that video. You think about what we've covered in here, give a little food for thought, and it's something that, use the principles of troubleshooting. Instead of just, oh, I got a problem, what do you think it is? Well, think about it, okay? I know people don't have a lot of experience in that, and they run into problems. But, something like this, if you understand how the gun works, and truthfully, that mechanism isn't that complex, okay? All right? If something's broken, it's either the firing pin or a spring, okay? And if there was something else broken, the gun wouldn't function, all right? So learn to assess the problem, take your time, and eventually it'll come to you, all right?